Everything went to hell when I tried to convince him to donate his money to feminist movement.
This might sound outrageous, but my life turned upside down just because I asked my husband to donate to feminist movements. In return, he has decided to drag me to court and divorce me. I have been crying all day because my husband did the unthinkable. Hello guys, my name is Eloise and I am a 25-year-old feminist. I work as a fashion designer in a company I will not be referencing for privacy reasons. The name of my husband is Philip. Philip is 38 years old, and we have been married for about 2 years now. Philip has his own travel agency, and we have been living well. Philip and I met at a time when he was coming to our company, and he was trying to surprise his then-girlfriend with a dress for her birthday, and we were to make a dress for her. From the moment I started showing him samples and trying to help him find a dress for his girlfriend, I just knew that I had an interest in him. I know that was stupid of me, but I just couldn't withstand it, even though I knew he had a girlfriend. While trying to get the dress to his girlfriend's taste, I made up several excuses to get to spend more time with him. I just knew that if the dress was done fast, I would literally not get any other chance to speak to him, and I didn't want that. My colleagues at work actually noticed everything too, and some even tried to talk to me about it, but I wasn't ready to listen to anyone. I wanted Philip at all costs, and I didn't care if his relationship got ruined in the process. What was more important for me was dating him, and so I ignored the consequences that might follow. Even though I tried my best to delay the process of making the dress as much as I couldn't keep the act up forever. When the dress was finally made, I knew I had to act fast, or else I was going to lose my chance with Philip. I'm someone that loves getting what she wants, so when I made the choice of wanting Philip, I didn't joke about it. I spoke to my closest friend about my predicament, and she told me the best thing to do was to make the girlfriend break up with him, since Philip seemed like a hard nut to crack. I was the one meant to deliver the dress to his girlfriend, so I used that as an opportunity. I told her Philip was flirting with me throughout the process of making the dress, and that we had a thing going on. I knew that would work because Philip had been spending more time at our store while we delayed the dress, so it was reasonable that his girlfriend had been suspecting something was up. His girlfriend refused to believe me at first and told me to leave, but I showed her a picture that left her with doubts. Days later, Philip came back to the store to ask if I had said anything to his girlfriend. I denied his accusation and said his girlfriend was rude to me and even tried to fight me. From his reaction, I could tell his girlfriend had broken up with him, so I was happy. But he left the store and didn't even try to get my contact information. I gave him a total of 6 months without disturbing him before I finally contacted him. After almost a year of trying to get his attention, we finally started dating. I'm a feminist and I don't crave for male validation, but then the problem I had with Philip was the fact that he had to be told what to do before he could do anything. I had to tell him that we have to go out as a couple. I had to tell him that we need to give each other gifts, that we need to be intentional about everything. But as time went on, he began to behave the way that he should, and I was happy. We were making progress. I made sure that I didn't mess up the relationship because I knew how hard I worked for it. After we dated for nearly 2 years, we got to do a family introduction and I met his family. I was excited because it felt like that was 2 in the right direction. A few weeks after that, I got a hint from Philip that he wanted to propose to me. I made sure we didn't argue or fight during that time because I needed the ring and wanted to marry him. Eventually he proposed and I accepted it. We were engaged for a while and after 2 months, we began to talk about planning our wedding. It was all overwhelming for me, but I knew that I had to put things together in order for everything to work out. There were days that I was so exhausted that I had to just calm down and not overwork myself. I had to start asking people for help. Our families came to our rescue and it helped a lot, and I was very glad. Philip was contributing a great deal into the wedding, and he made sure that I didn't spend my own money for the wedding. The wedding came, and like that, it was over. We were able to come to an agreement on what to do and how we were going to be living. We moved into our home, and officially our lives started. I know everything sounds like it was such a smooth ride, right? Well, things started to go downhill from here. Living with Philip wasn't easy. It was as if I didn't know or I didn't date this person before. I had to adjust to a lot of things that were going on. His lifestyle and the way he does things. I felt like he didn't value me as much as he should. Of course, I noticed some traits I didn't like before marriage, like him not treating me like a princess and all, but I thought getting him locked in marriage would change his ways. On the bright side, Philip made sure that he provided for me, and sometimes it felt like he was the only one doing it, and I usually tell him that I would like to assist him, but he could refuse me and say it was his responsibility as a man. I liked that because honestly, who wouldn't like the freedom of not paying a dime? I loved the fact that I could spend my own money any way I liked, and so I went with his decisions. But going forward, some things started to rub me off the wrong way, like him making important decisions without involvement, even when it had to do with getting a new furniture, car, or even his personal finance. He didn't care to involve me. I had to speak to my friend again, and she said that was against feminism, and I agreed. I'm a feminist, and I believe I should have equal rights to make decisions even in marriage. I don't see anything wrong with that. One of the things I later got to find out after the wedding was Philip's temperament. He would easily get angry just because I made a purchase from his card without his knowledge, or when I bought things for the house without letting him know about it. I get that it was his money I spent on all those things, but I felt like I wasn't wrong. I'm his wife, and also deserve equal rights in decision-making. He didn't need to get angry because of that or raise his voice and act superior. These issues were very serious, and we argued about it a lot. At some point, I started to notice that Philip despised my idea of feminism a lot. He always told me I was interpreting it the wrong way and doing too much, but I don't think that's the case. In the middle of the chaos, trying to get used to married life and trying to balance my work and a new family, more issues arose. I just got tired of cooking almost every day of my life. Philip came back late from work, but I still wanted him to be involved in the kitchen. I just got tired of stress after work, and even though I closed from work before Philip, it was just too difficult to keep it up. I expected Philip to be reasonable, but instead he refused. I just felt like I wasn't being heard, even though I was complaining. It was almost as if he felt like his job was more important. I mean, the fact that he provided for the house shouldn't make me feel any less. I work too, and I spent hours at work, so I deserve to rest for some time. I even told him to hire a house help since it was getting difficult to work and take care of the house at the same time, but he refused and said we didn't need house help. At work, I was promoted, and the workload was too much for me. I expected Philip to be happy that I even got promoted at work. I thought my promotion would make him get back early from work and help me with things. Even with my promotion, I still closed from work at the same time, but I hated cooking and cleaning. I just hated the thought of doing chores as a whole. I felt like Philip was only interested in his own job, nothing more. He just wanted food to be ready before he arrived and claimed that I should be considerate that he closed very late. At that point in my life and in my marriage, I was so angry with everything that I decided to speak to my friend once again. I honestly felt embarrassed that I had to come talk to her every once in a while, and a part of me felt like I had too many problems. But I just needed to speak to someone and get the validation I needed, because it was evident to me that Philip wasn't understanding my point of view at all. Okay, I accept the fact that he paid everything from my personal bills to the house bill and that he worked late. I understand that part, but I work too. I work for myself, and I feel like as a woman, I shouldn't be subjected to kitchen duties all the time. Cooking is hard, and it's even harder for a working woman. Just like I predicted, my friend was able to see point of view. I explained everything that had been going on in the house to her, and she told me that she stood firmly behind me and supported all my views. She even advised me not to back down and to keep my head high. According to her, I was fighting for something very important. I mean, deep down, I didn't want my marriage with Philip to end at all. I just wanted him to start understanding my views as a feminist, and how it's absolutely shameful to me to settle for anything less than equality. I literally suffered a lot just to get him to marry me in the first place. I knew he was not a feminist, but I thought I could change him. I mean, I wasn't even that much of a feminist before we got married. I wasn't deep into it as I was after marriage, so I expected him to change with me. I hated the kitchen work and the idea that I had to cook before he gets back from work. Like, who made the rules and who said it had to be done that way? I know at least one person would get where I am coming from because I am 100% sure that my views are accurate and I did nothing wrong. Even my friend supported me, and she advised me on the next step to take. I'm not usually one to follow people blindly and do exactly what they suggested, But when my friend suggested that I went on a vacation and took a break from the house, so Philip, of course, saw how serious I was, I accepted it immediately. I told him I needed time to myself and wanted to clear my head. Philip told me he had nothing against that, and even offered to take leave off work so we could go together. But I refused. I told him I was fine on my own, and thankfully, he didn't press me further. On my vacation, I met a group of women who I resonated with. They were also feminists, and it was my friend who connected me with them. They made me feel relatable, and it was the perfect validation. I loved the fact that other women felt the same way I did. I was not the one to be easily convinced, but this group of women were very and dedicated to feminism and equal rights as women. They were out to change the world, and I wanted to be part of it. I got their contact information so I could keep in touch. They had a foundation that wasn't far from my house back home, so I always made time to go there after work. As a result of this, I barely had time to take care of the house before Philip got back. I didn't cook or clean, and I didn't even have time to give our clothes to the dry cleaner like I usually did. I admit that at some point our house looked really nasty because I just had no time to take care of the house. I was trying my best to combine work and the foundation, and so it was just too overwhelming that I knew Philip was noticing the change, but he gave me the benefit of doubt and didn't ask me any questions at first. But I knew it was only a matter of time before he started asking questions and complaining, so I decided to speak to someone at the foundation. She told me I was doing nothing wrong and that I was only doing my best as a wife and working woman. Another woman tried to tell me I was taking things too far, but I ignored her because I felt like she was being unreasonable. One day, Philip finally decided to speak to me about my new behavior and how I was barely at the house and barely doing anything. That day, we really had a very long argument, and I could see that Philip was getting fed up with a lot of things. What I didn't just understand was why he was getting fed up in the first place. I felt like I was trying my best as a wife, even though he claimed not to see it. The fact that I was not cheating was a big contribution, right? He came up with the financial argument just like all men do. He asked me to list what I brought to the table, and I said that the fact that I was even at the table was enough reasons for him to be thankful. On the other end, he said he was providing for me, caring for me, and planning a future with me while still being busy at work. He also pointed at the fact that he cooked before I got back from the foundation sometimes, even though he was tired. Philip got so angry that he gave me an ultimatum and said if I was ready to provide for the house, then he was more than happy to stay home and take care of the house. I refused because what I asked for was equal rights not to be his source of income. I didn't like how serious he was getting, so I decided to just let Philip do his thing, and I went on with my life. Things were moving well, my work at the office was all right, I was able to find a balance. I began to invest more in myself. I was able to make myself happy without thinking of any other person. I concentrated on myself. I knew deep down that the reason I took a break was because I didn't want Philip to divorce me. I could tell that he was getting fed up and that his tolerance for my actions was low. I didn't want to lose the marriage I spent years praying for, so I had to tone down a little bit. I just wanted to live the princess lifestyle without doing so much housework and stress. I needed Philip to see things from my point of view. I thought that by toning things down and pretending to finally agree with him for some time, I could get him to forget about the things I've done and extinguish any thought of divorce from him, but I was absolutely wrong. He came to me to speak about a topic I never ever wanted to speak about. On a Saturday morning after we had breakfast that he ordered, by the way, he asked to speak to me, and I agreed. I can vividly remember that the first thing he said was, "I feel like we should start talking about kids now." I just need to say that those words absolutely traumatized me. Kids? I didn't want kids. I wasn't ready for kids. No part of me had ever thought about having children until he said it. I love my body and I do not want kids, at least not yet. So you need to imagine the level of shock I felt when he brought that topic up. To be honest, he had told me he wanted kids before we got married, and I didn't say no. I just said anything at that point because I wanted to marry him at all costs. But after 5 years of being together, I just realized that having children was not in my cards. I had insecurities and several reasons, so I told him no. Philip felt like I gaslighted him because he had asked me before proposing, and I didn't refuse. He told me he was not going to let me use him like that, and that he was not going to put down his life goals and live an unsatisfied life just because I woke up one morning and decided to interpret feminism the way I liked. After he told me that, he left the house. I was honestly hurt with the way things had turned out, so I decided to lay low for some time and not do or say anything to rattle him up. But something crazy happened at the foundation one day that led me to break my promise not to rattle him up. Other members of the foundation had few of their husbands donating to the foundation. Some of them donated themselves because their husbands were not in support of what the foundation stands for and what their movement was all about. The other women started to ask me to donate to the feminist movement too, since I had been a member for long enough. I didn't want to be left out, so I decided to donate, but I didn't want to use my own money. I wanted Philip to donate himself, so I decided to make a plan. I wanted Philip and I to go see a therapist, iron our issues out, and then I'd ask him to donate right after. It was obvious that we were headed for divorce and that nothing was working in our marriage. I liked the idea because after much discussion with women who were like-minded at the foundation, they told me that it was best for us to see a therapist. To my dismay, the therapist was a very biased person. She made it seem like I was the one at fault in all our sessions, and claimed that if I was really looking for equality, then he had to stop funding everything, and that we had to go 50-50. That made me angry because I thought seeing a therapist would vindicate me and not make me the bad guy. As a result of the therapist's judgment, Philip got more adamant and claimed that I was trying to end our marriage because I was being influenced by people. He also made it clear that my behavior would lead us to getting a divorce sooner or later. I couldn't believe what was going on, and it felt like my life was literally crumbling right before my eyes. I had to think fast and ask him to donate because my friend was pressuring me, and I was getting embarrassed of being the only member not to donate. I waited for months so Philip and I would be on good terms before I finally asked him to donate to the feminist movements. The last thing I expected was for Philip to get angry and go off on me in such a way that he told me I was the worst decision he had ever made in his life. He also swore never to let a dime of his hard-earned money go to the same foundation that was influencing me to ruin our marriage. I thought it was just his usual tantrums, but 6 weeks later he gave me divorce papers and sent me out of the house. As I write this now, we're basically heading for divorce. It all feels like a dream, and I cannot believe that all these happened to me. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now the man I basically lied to marry wants to divorce me. I don't know what to do, and I urgently need help, because I'm honestly going crazy right now. I do not want to lose this marriage because it will break me. Update. Hello, dear Reddit. It's been over a year already, and I cannot believe it. I never planned to have a second update or even take so long to eventually update. When I decided to buy life, hit me so hard that I had to change my mind. I guess this is my own way of healing in a way. Oh, and I really need to address the comments because you all have literally sliced my character in these comments. I prayed and hoped that I would be understood, but it seems like everyone is just calling me delusional and brainwashed. Some even went as far as saying I am a disgrace to feminism and what it stands for. I've been through a lot, and these comments weren't what I was expecting. I just wanted equality and the right to make decisions whenever I liked, but it seems like I had been gaslighting myself. You might want to ask, what has been going on in your life all these while? I got divorced eventually because Philip refused to take me back. I told him I'd change, but he told me he was done with me and wanted nothing to do with a selfish narcissist who hid under the camouflage of femininity. I cannot believe he said that because those words haunt me till this day. Well, after the divorce, I lost my job at the company because the divorce had taken a toll on me, and I went from not giving my best at work to missing work. I was given an ultimatum, but I still couldn't get back on my feet and work effectively, so I was sacked. I have been looking for a job ever since, but I haven't seen any. My life has been turned upside down due to one mistake of mine. Imagine being broke and divorced. I hate my life. I wish I never met those people and became a feminist. I wish I was not influenced. I wish I was not influenced because otherwise I would be living the life of my dreams. Hey Reddit, I can't believe I'm even typing this out, but I really need to get it off my chest. I've been lurking around here for a while, and I feel like I need to share this. It's one of those situations where I wish I could go back in time and undo everything, but all I can do now is own up to my mistakes. So, a bit of background first. My husband, James, and I have been married for 5 years, but have been together since high school. He's an amazing guy, kind, supportive, and honestly, he's the best thing that ever happened to me. But if I'm being completely honest, our relationship hasn't always been smooth. Early in our marriage, I made some serious mistakes. I cheated on James, not once, but twice, and it nearly broke us. We went through a really rough period after that. James was devastated, and it took a lot of work, therapy, long talks, and endless apologies to even begin to rebuild the trust I had shattered. It took everything in me to convince him that I was truly sorry and that I would never betray him like that again. Eventually, we got back on track, but there were scars, and I knew that deep down, James was still wary, still afraid that I might hurt him again. In the last year, things had been looking up for us. James recently got a promotion at work, something he'd been working toward for years. He's one of the hardest working people I know, and this promotion meant everything to him. With the promotion came a new boss, Mr. Carter. I'd heard a lot about Mr. Carter from James, how he's a tough but fair guy, someone who could really help James move up even further in his career. James was eager to impress him, to show that he was deserving of the role he'd been given. So, when I found out Mr. Carter was going to be at the town festival, I knew it was a big deal for James, and I was excited to finally meet him. He wanted to introduce me to him, to show Mr. Carter that he had a supportive wife by his side. We live in a small town where everyone knows each other, and once a year we have this big town festival. It's the kind of event where people come from all over. There's music, food, games, and of course a lot of drinking. I've always loved it because it's a chance to let loose and have fun. But this year, I took it way too far. The day of the festival started out great. James and I went together and everything was perfect. We played some games, ate way too much cotton candy, and just enjoyed the day. But as the evening rolled around, I started drinking. It wasn't anything unusual at first, just a few beers to get into the festival spirit. But then I had a couple more, and then a few shots with some friends, and before I knew it, I was way past my limit. That's when I saw Mr. Carter. He was standing by one of the food stalls talking to some of his colleagues. I don't know what came over me, but in my drunken state, I decided it would be a good idea to go over and introduce myself. James was off somewhere else at this point, probably grabbing more drinks or chatting with some of our friends, so I was on my own. I walked up to Mr. Carter, and honestly, I don't even remember what I said at first. Something about how I'd heard so much about him, and how great it was to finally meet him. He was polite and friendly, but I could tell he was a bit taken aback by how forward I was being. But instead of taking the hint, I kept going. I started complimenting him on his suit, his hair, his smile. I could see the discomfort on his face, but I just couldn't stop myself. And then I crossed the line. I started flirting with him, and not just casual, innocent flirting. No, I was full on, shamelessly hitting on him. I don't even want to repeat some of the things I said because they're so embarrassing, but let's just say it was bad. Really bad. Mr. Carter tried to laugh it off at first, making some joke about how I must have had a bit too much to drink, but I didn't get the message. I kept pushing, kept making suggestive comments, and then I touched his arm. At that moment, James walked up. I didn't even see him coming, but suddenly he was there, standing next to me with this look of pure shock on his face. I'll never forget the look in his eyes, hurt, confusion, and anger all rolled into one. I tried to laugh it off, saying it was all just a joke, but he didn't find it funny at all. He pulled me aside, away from Mr. Carter, and asked me what the hell I was doing. Given our history, James was immediately suspicious and angry. He'd been so proud to introduce me to Mr. Carter, to show that we were a united front. And there I was, making a complete fool of myself, and undermining everything he had worked so hard to achieve. James knew what this promotion meant, how it was a chance for him to prove himself, to secure our future, and I had jeopardized that in a matter of minutes. I was still too drunk to fully understand how serious the situation was, so I just shrugged it off and told him I was just being friendly. But James wasn't buying it. He told me that I was embarrassing myself, him, and our relationship. He said that Mr. Carter is not just his boss, but someone who could make or break his career, and that I was completely out of line. That's when it hit me. I realized what I had done, but it was too late. The damage was already done. James walked away, leaving me standing there, feeling like the biggest idiot in the world. I wanted to run after him, to apologize, to make it right, but I was too drunk to even move. So I just stood there, watching him disappear into the crowd. The rest of the night is a blur. I vaguely remember getting an Uber home, crying the whole way, and then passing out as soon as I got to bed. The next morning, the hangover hit me hard. Not just the physical one, but the emotional one too. I woke up to an empty bed. James wasn't there. I texted him, asking where he was, but he didn't respond. I called him, but it went straight to voicemail. I was starting to panic, thinking he might be so mad that he didn't want to come home. But a few hours later, he finally walked through the door. He didn't yell, didn't scream. He just looked disappointed. He told me that he had gone to his parents' house to cool off and think things through. He said he didn't know what to do next, that he needed time to figure out if he could even trust me again after what I'd done. And that's where we are now. It's been a few days since the festival, and things are still tense between us. James is distant, barely talking to me, and when he does, it's cold and detached. I've tried apologizing, tried explaining that I was just drunk and didn't mean any of it, but he's not ready to forgive me. I feel like I've ruined everything. Not just my relationship with James, but potentially his career too. I can't stop thinking about what Mr. Carter must think of me now, and how it might affect James at work. I've been sick with worry, replaying that night over and over in my head, wishing I could take it all back. I don't know what to do, Reddit. I love James more than anything, and I don't want to lose him. But I feel like I've already pushed him too far. I'm terrified that he's going to leave me, and I don't know how to fix this mess I've created. If anyone has been in a similar situation, or has any advice on how to make things right, please. I could really use some help right now. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. After my last post, I got seriously bashed, and honestly, I can't complain because I deserve it. I messed up, big time, and I know it. I'm not here to argue or try to justify what I did, because there's no excuse. I was wrong, plain and simple, and I own that. For those of you who pointed out that I've been unfaithful before and wished my husband would leave me, I want to address that. Yes, I've made mistakes in the past, mistakes that I deeply regret and have been working hard to fix. But I want to clarify something. I am not a chronic cheat. I know that may sound like a weak defense, but it's the truth. The times I've messed up in the past were moments of weakness that I've since worked tirelessly to overcome. After the first time I cheated, I realized how much pain I caused James, and I promised myself and him that I would never do it again. But then, it happened again, and I saw how much more it hurt him. That was the moment I knew I needed help. I went to therapy, we did couples counseling, and I've spent countless hours working on myself to understand why I made those choices and how to prevent them from happening again. I've been completely transparent with James. He has access to my phone, my social media, and even my location at all times. I've done everything I can to rebuild the trust I broke, and up until the festival, I thought we were on the right track. But I know that what I did that night, flirting with his boss, brought all those old wounds back to the surface. It was a stupid, careless mistake that I deeply regret, and I hate that I've put James through this again. So, what's the update? Well, unfortunately, there isn't much to say. James is still cold toward me, and I don't blame him. He's been distant, barely talking to me, except when absolutely necessary. The connection we were slowly rebuilding feels like it's been shattered all over again. It's like we're back at square one, and it's killing me inside. I've apologized 1,000 times, and I genuinely don't know what else to do. I miss my husband so much, but I can see that he's hurt and struggling to figure out if he can forgive me. Again. Every day I wake up hoping that maybe today will be the day he starts to warm up to me again, but it hasn't happened yet. I feel horrible. I hate myself for what I did, and I hate that I've put our marriage in jeopardy once more. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to keep fighting for us. I just hope it's not too late. To those of you who've been supportive, thank you. And to those who've criticized me, you're right. I messed up, and I have to live with that. I just hope that one day I can make things right with James and show him that I truly do love him and that I'm committed to being the partner he deserves. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I don't even know why I'm writing this. I guess I'm looking for some kind of therapeutic relief. I'm honestly so distraught, confused, and blindsided right now. I know I messed up at the town festival, but I never imagined it was bad enough for James to want a divorce. I feel so confused and lost. I never saw this coming, and now I don't know what to do. So, about 2 days ago, James approached me wanting to talk. I was excited, actually, because he hadn't really spoken to me much since the incident at the festival. I thought maybe we were finally going to start mending things, getting back to some sort of normalcy. We sat down, and I even made us coffee. But then he dropped a bombshell. He told me he wanted a divorce. I was completely shocked. At first I thought it was some kind of cruel prank, so I tried to laugh it off. But the look on James's face quickly made me realize that he was, in fact, serious. I felt like the ground was being pulled out from under me. James explained that the past few days, combined with what happened at the festival, made him realize something he couldn't ignore. He couldn't live like this anymore. He couldn't live in constant fear and distrust of me. He said that after I broke his trust the first time, he never fully got it back. There's always been this tiny part of him that suspected I was cheating, even when I wasn't. He said the incident at the festival only intensified that feeling and made him understand something he's been trying to ignore for a long time. He can't live this way, so paranoid, so on edge. He told me he was sorry, that he still loved me, but that I had ruined things starting from the very first time I cheated. He said he didn't want to live in a marriage where he was constantly questioning my every move, wondering if he could ever trust me again. And that's when I broke down. I was fully crying at this point, begging him to reconsider, telling him that I would do anything to fix this. But his mind was made up. James said he'd give me a few days to get ready and find somewhere to go before he'd expect me to leave, and then he just left the room. It's been 2 days since that conversation, and I don't even know what to do with myself. I feel like my whole world has just fallen apart. I keep replaying our conversation in my head, trying to figure out where everything went so wrong and how I missed the signs that this was coming. I guess a part of me always knew that I hadn't fully regained his trust, but I convinced myself that as long as we loved each other, we could get through anything. But now I'm sitting here, realizing that maybe love isn't enough. Not when the trust is gone. Not when the person you love feels like they're living in constant fear of being hurt again. I don't know what to do, Reddit. I feel like I've lost everything, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm terrified of what comes next, and I don't know how I'm going to survive this. How do you move on from losing the person you thought you'd spend the rest of your life with? How do you cope with the fact that you're the one who pushed them away? I'm just so lost right now. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me. I apologize for the radio silence. I know some of you have been wondering what's been happening, and I didn't want to leave you in the dark. I wanted to give you all a proper update, but honestly, it took a while for everything to unfold. First things first, James has been gone for a week. He was staying at his mom's house, and I think part of me knew that he needed space, but I didn't realize just how much. When he came home after that week away, I could tell he was shocked to still see me there. I guess he expected me to be gone by the time he returned. No, it was one of those moments where you don't need words to understand what someone's thinking. The look on his face said it all. He didn't want to deal with the awkwardness of me still being there. I realized I had to leave, not just because he wanted me out, but because I didn't want to complicate things any further. I didn't want to make it harder on both of us, dragging out the inevitable. So I left. I packed up what little I had left and headed to my parents' house. I've been here for about a week now, and I'll be honest, it's horrible. It's not that my parents are bad people or anything, but it's just not where I want to be. I feel like a teenager again, but not in a good way. I'm a grown woman, and yet here I am, back under their roof because I've made such a mess of my life. The worst part is that I just feel numb. I thought I'd be more emotional, more devastated, but I just feel this overwhelming sense of emptiness. I'm tired, physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm tired of the crying, the regret, the constant replaying of everything in my head. I'm tired of trying to figure out where things went wrong, how I ended up here. I'm tired of feeling like I've lost everything that mattered. I wanted to fill in those of you who've been checking up on me because I know some of you genuinely care. It's been easier to just write this update than to reply to all the DMs I've been getting. I'm sorry if I haven't responded to everyone individually, but I've been overwhelmed with everything that's going on. Right now, I'm just trying to get through each day. It's hard to focus on anything other than the fact that my marriage is over, that the life I thought I had is gone. I know I messed up, and I know I have to deal with it, but it's still hard to accept. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been about a week since my last update. Honestly, I wasn't planning on coming back on here at all. I've been avoiding Reddit entirely. No logging on, no reading comments, just trying to disconnect. The truth is, even though some of you have been incredibly supportive and genuinely caring, a lot of the comments have been downright awful. I get it. What I did wasn't right, and people have strong opinions about it, but the sheer volume of hate has been overwhelming. That's why I took a break. But here I am again because despite everything, many of you have been asking for updates, so I figured I'd share what's been going on. First things first, James and I finally talked, and I mean really talked. He came over to my parents' house and we ended up having a conversation that lasted for hours. It was the first real conversation we've had since he told me he wanted a divorce, and it was long overdue. We talked about everything: our marriage, the festival incident, my infidelity, and where we go from here. James basically laid out his feelings in a way he hadn't before. He told me that the town festival incident was a wake-up call for him. He realized that no matter how much he wanted to, he could never fully trust me again. The paranoia had been eating away at him for a long time, but until the festival, he didn't quite understand how deep it went. He admitted that he was constantly suspicious of me, checking my location, and even going through my phone while I was asleep. He said that living like that, constantly on edge, constantly doubting, wasn't sustainable, especially in a marriage. He said he needed someone he could trust completely, and that I was no longer that person for him. He also brought up the fact that I didn't just cheat once, but twice. He said that was a mistake on his part, that he should have never taken me back after the first time. Hearing that, I broke down. I cried, and I cried hard. It was like everything I had been holding back, all the numbness I'd been feeling, finally came crashing down on me. The full weight of what I had done, what I had lost, hit me all at once, and it was devastating. I also asked him about his boss. I needed to know if that situation had caused any issues for him at work. Thankfully, James told me that his boss wasn't upset at all. His boss knew I was drunk and just laughed it off, which was a massive relief. I can't even begin to imagine how much worse things could have gotten if his boss had taken offense to my behavior. We also discussed finances, which was a difficult conversation, but a necessary one. I know I hadn't mentioned this in my previous posts, but I've been a stay-at-home wife for the past year. I didn't bring it up before because, at the time, I didn't think it was relevant, but now with the divorce, it's very relevant. Plus, I wanted to keep some anonymity, hence not mentioning. James said he would leave me a little something from our joint accounts, but when I tried to press him on exactly how much, he wouldn't give me a clear answer. To give a bit more context, I wasn't always a stay-at-home wife. James and I have been married for 5 years, and for the first 4 years, I worked. I quit my job because the work environment had become incredibly toxic, and honestly, James was making more than enough to support both of us. Another reason I left was because the 2 people I cheated with, I met them at my job. After everything that happened, it just seemed better for me to quit and focus on our marriage. Now, I'm in this strange limbo. I don't want to go back to work, if I'm being completely honest. I love being able to stay home, to not have to deal with the stress of a job. But now, with the divorce, I don't really know what my options are. I'm scared of what I'll do next. So that's where things stand right now. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I'm not sure why I'm writing this. Maybe it's because I'm looking for some kind of comfort, or maybe it's just that I need to get this off my chest. Honestly, I'm at a loss. How do you deal with the loss of something so precious? Something that was once your whole world, and now it's just gone? I feel horrible. I really do. Today was the day I got served with the divorce papers, and it's like the final nail in the coffin of everything I've been dreading. And I feel horrible. On one hand, I feel like I deserve it. I know I messed up. I know I broke James's trust, not just once, but twice, and that's not something that can be easily forgiven or forgotten. I betrayed the person who meant the most to me, and now I'm facing the consequences of that. And, in a way, I feel like this is just karma coming back to bite me. But on the other hand, there's this part of me that feels like I don't. I know that sounds selfish, but I can't help but feel like I'm being punished in a way that's too harsh, too final. I've tried to make amends. I've been going to therapy, trying to work on myself, trying to fix the things that led me to make those mistakes in the first place. But it feels like no matter what I do, it's never enough. The damage has been done, and there's no undoing it. And now with these papers, it just feels so final, like there's no coming back from this. It's not just about the divorce. It's about the loss of everything I thought I had, the life we built together, the future we planned. It's all slipping through my fingers, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. I just feel fucking tired. Tired of trying to hold on to something that's already gone. Tired of the guilt, the shame, the endless loop of what ifs playing in my head. Tired of feeling like a failure, like I ruined everything, and there's no way to fix it. And the comments on here, the DMs, they aren't helping either. I know I messed up, and I know people are going to judge me for that. But some of the things people have said, it's brutal. I get that people are angry that they think I deserve this, but it's hard to read those comments and not feel like the worst person in the world. It's like everyone is lining up to tell me how much I fucked up, how much I deserve this pain, and it's just exhausting. I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. Maybe a little bit of understanding, maybe just a tiny bit of empathy. I don't know. But instead, it feels like the whole world is piling on, and I'm not sure how much more I can take. I'm trying to stay strong, I really am, but it's hard when it feels like everything is crumbling around me. I don't know what to do next. I don't know how to move forward from this. All I know is that I feel horrible, and I just wish there was a way to make it all stop. So yeah, that's where I'm at. If anyone has any advice on how to deal with this, or if anyone's been through something similar and come out the other side, I could really use some words of wisdom right now. Because honestly, I'm just feeling lost. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I really struggled with making this post, and honestly, I really didn't want to. But I think I have to. I guess this is my way of closing the chapter, even though it's a chapter I wish I could rewrite. For anyone who's just stumbled upon my post and feels confused, just check my previous posts so you can understand where I'm coming from. That is, if you want to. Anyways, like I said, I really didn't want to make this post, Reddit. It took me a while to come to terms with the fact that I had to. I fought against it for a long time because it felt so final. Like once I put it out there, there would be no turning back. But in the end, it felt like some kind of final thing I had to do. It felt like the last box to check off on my checklist, like I owed you guys something. So I finally decided to do it, and here I am now, doing it. So, first things first, the divorce has been finalized. I thought I was prepared for it, but when it actually happened, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was pretty cut and dry, quick and to the point. No debts to split, no assets together. Everything James had was premarital, so I didn't get any of that. No alimony either because, well, I worked for almost 70% of our marriage, so the court didn't see a reason for it. And for those of you asking why I didn't have any savings if I'd been working for 4 years, yeah, that's because I'm an extravagant person. James was always the financially savvy one, the one who knew how to save and invest. I just like to spend it all. It's bad, I know, and it's one of those things I wish I could go back and change. I've toned it down now, though. Living with your parents in your 30s will do that to you. But yeah, we didn't have much in savings when everything went down. So that was it. The divorce is finalized, and there's no going back now. James stayed true to his word, though, and he gave me about 15% of our joint accounts. I'll be honest, I expected way more, maybe 40 or 50%, but it's his money, so I can't complain. And besides, it's not like 15% is nothing. If I were to rent an apartment around my parents' neighborhood, this would probably cover rent for a few months. So, I'm grateful for that. It's just, I expected more, but that's fine. It is what it is. As for how I've been doing, horrible, really horrible. I feel sick to my stomach most days, and I can't seem to shake this feeling of dread that settled over me like a heavy fog. My parents are trying their best to help me, and they've been so supportive, but I just can't seem to move on. I've lost 4 jobs in the past month because of this. 3 of them let me go because I couldn't concentrate, and the last one, I just stopped showing up for it. I didn't have the energy, the will to keep going. My parents are angry about that, and I don't blame them. They're trying their best to help me, but they can't do it if I don't want to help myself. And honestly, I'm not sure I do. I just feel tired, exhausted, and I feel horrible. I wish I could go back in time, take back everything I did that led me to this point, but I can't. I know you all are probably going to mock me, tell me you saw this coming from a mile away, and maybe you did. Maybe I did too, but I was too blind to see it. Maybe I thought I could fix things, that there was still hope, but now I see that hope was gone a long time ago. So, yeah, this is probably my last post. Goodbye, Reddit. Thanks to those who tried to offer support, and to those who didn't, well, I guess you were right all along.